Good morning, everyone. This is Mahavir Chopra. It is 11 a.m. Thank you for all of you who have joined in. I hope can someone send a message on Telegram from the admin team that this the webinar has started? Also, tweet on our Twitter handle so that more and more people can join. Um, Yep. So before I start, let me tell you quickly about Beshak. I'm sure many of you already know about Beshak, but just take a half a minute to tell you about Beshak. Beshak is a neutral community platform. It's an independent platform. We don't sell insurance. We don't advertise any insurance plan. We are basically trying to bring together the best, the most well-meaning folks of the industry, from experts to financial advisors, people who really make a difference in the lives of people who are trying to buy insurance all together, so that we can empower clients to make what we call regret-proof, worry-free insurance decisions. Uh, just a quick intro about me. I'm Mahavir Chopra, and I have around 16 years of experience in retail insurance distribution. I've also set up insurer relationships for large distributors. I previously worked with Fox for around 5 years. I've set up claims processes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my learnings. Obviously, I don't consider myself an expert. I'm learning health insurance since 2006, and I'm just trying to pass my learnings out here. A part of my role will be actually to set context, so that when we're doing the question and answer, we have a fruitful discussion, and there is interaction between us, and there are people who are experts in their own right who can also join in and share their learnings, right? Yeah, I'm just taking a half a minute of a break. Just give me half a minute. One second. Yes. So, like I said, this is basically I'm going to like take 20-25 minutes of my time to set context. Once the context is set, I'll obviously like people. There are a lot of people who already have experience because these are financial advisors who are there on this audio chat. So, would like to learn from you, from your experience, what you think is happening right on the ground. What are the things that are working, not working, and would love to learn from a conversation that we can have after, let's say, 15-20 minutes of my intro. Yeah. So the topic of the day is going to be pre-existing disease declarations and pre-existing disease waiting periods. Now, there has been a lot of confusion around this, and there are a lot of questions that keep coming everywhere, even on social media, on on our forum, and there are a lot of people who know me personally, or people who ping me on WhatsApp to check about these questions, and that's why we decided to take this topic. Also, Saket Jain from the community recommended this topic, and we loved the idea, so we picked this topic. Anybody who has any suggestions about any topic that they want to uh, suggest, you can either ping me on WhatsApp, or you can write to @Beshak admin on Telegram. So you just type Beshak admin @Beshak admin on the search on Telegram, and you will be able to find a handle where you can basically get any kind of support, or you have any suggestions, or you have any feedback, anything. You could just ping us there. So we created a separate handle for that. Yeah, so there are for people who have onboarded on the platform, there will be some giveaways. We'll also share the recording on the for those people. So I'm talking about people who have gone on our website and onboarded themselves as advisors. We are soon going to come up with a lot of additional exciting, cool benefits for them, which would allow them to enjoy Beshak's research and a lot of stuff that we're doing exclusively. So if you have not onboarded yourself on the website, I would strongly recommend you do it. It's absolutely free, and there are no strings attached. We are not going to there is nothing. We don't spam you or call you or anything. maximum what I would do is that maybe I will ping you and I would like to talk to you personally. That's the only thing that I've been doing with people who have onboarded on our website. Okay, so let's start. It's 11:05. Pre-existing disease is, I think, the most complicated and the most difficult and the most dispute, magnet of the of health insurance. I think because it generates the maximum amount of confusion while you are buying the policy, maximum amount of confusion when you get the policy, and the most amount of confusion when you have a claim. So it's super important. From an insurance point of view, insurer's point of view, pre-existing disease is so important. Is something that we've actually covered in one of our articles. Pre-existing disease. Look at pre-existing disease as if if you were buying a second-hand car. Let's say if you have a son and you want to buy a second-hand car for him, so that, or a daughter, and you want to buy a car for that person, so that she's able to learn driving. And what are the things that you look at in the car, right, before you buy the car? If it's a second-hand car, and be very careful. I'm talking about a second-hand car. If you're buying a second-hand car, you'll go, you'll check the car. You will want to understand how many accidents have happened. You'll want to understand how is the engine doing. You will want to understand who was the earlier user of the car. You'll maybe take a mechanic with you or someone who's an expert with you to understand, that what are the issues that the car could face after you bought the car, right? And you don't want to be, paying more money than the value of the car and the kind of issues the car has, right? It's the same thing for an insurer. Insurer actually, forgive me for this, but insurer looks at us and our clients as second-hand cars, right? As old you are, the more they are worried. And from that perspective, it's very clear for them that okay, they need to also basically come and inspect you, check you, ask you questions to understand whether the you have had health issues, have had injuries, and there are some issues that you would have which could lead to future claims, like in a car case, which could lead to massive repairs, right? Like we get a mechanic when we have to buy a car, an insurer would also get someone to do a medical test, right? So it's a perfect analogy, is what I feel, and this is something that came up when we were building content for Beshak, is that yeah, insurers are going to look at you as someone who's like has a liability, or as something like a where they have to take care of you after you bought the policy, and they have to pay money for any kind of claim that comes. So hence they have all the right to basically understand whether the price they're charging you is equivalent to the kind of risk they're taking on board. So that's precisely the reason why pre-existing disease plays a very big role. If pre-existing disease goes wrong, an insurer feels cheated, right? And insurers hence have the right, as per regulations, to be able to cancel the policy, not give a claim, and do a lot of other stuff, right? Meaning they can also, meaning there has been time when I remember about 10 years ago, New India Assurance even filed an FIR against people who did uh, 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 willing, meaning frauds, or not willing, meaning willingly did frauds, meaning not frauds which were like hidden frauds, or something which was like soft fraud, which is also called soft fraud, meaning something which you did unknowingly, but if there's a willingly fraud, in fact, there are insurance companies who went and filed FIR saying that this was a fraud that was done on us. So insurers take pre-existing disease very seriously. Now, what we're discussing now out here in the next 10 to 12 minutes is basically there are two aspects of how pre-existing disease is looked at, and that's the topic of the day. There are pre-existing disease disclosures which an insurer expects you to give when you buy a policy, and there is the definition of pre-existing disease. And here is where there is a lot of confusion, because a lot of people actually get confused between these two things. And we ourselves, to let me admit, after the definition became more and more clear, after IDA did a lot of IDA has done a lot of work on ensuring that the pre-existing disease thing, the confusion is reduced. I myself, I would say about a year ago, was sitting with multiple papers in my hand and trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? What is this? What is that? So it's a genuine and a very big confusion that a lot of people could have. So we are talking about something called pre-existing disease disclosures. These are basically disclosures that your clients or clients themselves, if they're buying the policy on their own, are making, right? Where do they make these disclosures? They make these disclosures in proposal forms. There could be additional questionnaires that an insurer could ask for depending on a disease that you have declared or your client has declared. There could be a telemedical or a video medical that could be done, which is where an insurer could want to get on a video call, right? These are things that you would obviously know. There is a medical test that could be done. And then there are questions at the venue, right? When the medical test is happening, there are questions at the venue that the person who's the doctor who's going to fill entire details and do an assessment is also going to fill. So all these, not only the proposal form, but all these are also part of the pre-existing disease disclosure. Now I'm going to share three very important points around pre-existing disease disclosures that everybody should know, and you should ensure that you made your clients aware about. Uh, point number one is there is no point looking at the proposal form to find out what to declare. Now this will be kind of counterintuitive. You would feel, okay, proposal form नहीं देखना है, questionnaire नहीं देखना है, telemedical से नहीं करना है, तो how do I know what to declare? uh, this is kind of tricky, so be with me for next 2-3 minutes. Is most proposal forms require you to declare just about everything apart from cold, common cold, flu, minor injuries, every damn thing, right? So it's not that insurers have a specific set of questions that you have to answer and you're done away with. Insurers ensure that there are questions they ask which are open-ended to ensure that if they miss to ask some question, then that is covered with that question. So for example, what is that question like? So there are questions like, if you see, I'm sure a lot of people who have already seen the proposal form know that, but it's really weird when you like compare proposal forms and you see the kind of different insurers dealing with it in a different way. Like for example, one of the insurer will ask questions like, do you have diabetes? Do you have blood pressure? Do you have had any stroke? Do you have any problems related to digestion or your stomach, reproductive organs, all those things? And then there will be one more question. We will say any other disease, and that is the trap, right? Any other disease ka matlab kya? Any other disorder. And that's where it basically comes down to you sitting down with the client and doing a diligent check, or encouraging the client to do a diligent check on the client's entire family history. Lifelong medical records are required to be basically sit down and basically in a way enlisted, right? And these are not obviously things which are minor injuries or like a malaria that you had and it was a simple infection which you were cured with, but these are things which are serious. Like, so one of the insurers says that uh, hospitalization of more than 5 days. Another insurer says that symptoms that have continued for more than 14 days. Now, these kind of things, these serious stuff where you were actually ill, are something like serious ill or proper ill, are something that you have to declare, and hence it's very important for you to understand that proposal form is not restricted in a way that you should just simply be stick to the proposal form questions and answer. You will have to go beyond it, sit with the client and do a proper analysis. There is no way you can do away with, because there will be open-ended questions in every proposal form. One more thing I will say is, let's say there is one more insurance company which says, do you have diabetes? Do you have high sugar? Or have you ever had high blood sugar in your life? Right? This is a question that has been asked. Now, ever had blood sugar? Someone could have had blood sugar once in his life. Even that is asked as a question. So these kind of things you should be super careful about. And that's why the point number one is that there's no point looking at the proposal form to find out what to declare. Ensure you declare based on the medical history and find places where you can enter those details in the proposal form. It should be reversed. If there is no place to enter those details, it's absolutely fine to send a separate email to the insurer and give those details with attachments about all the medical records that you have. Right. That's point number one. Right. There is another area where you should be very careful when you are dealing with your clients, and this is something that is very important. Is clients sometimes feel, and it's something that I feel is very Indian, and I'm not like I've not tried. I've tried to speak to a lot of people from other geographies, but they've not had this problem. But it's very Indian that a lot of clients in India actually feel that BP is not a disease, sugar is not a disease, having a cyst in an organ is not a disease. Like, अंकल आपको डिजीज है क्या कोई भी? द गाय विल से नहीं नहीं, मुझे कोई डिजीज नहीं है, मैं एकदम फिट एंड फाइन हूँ, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, मेरा सब कुछ ठीक है, सब बहुत अच्छा है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। तो आप कोई दवाई लेते हैं? हाँ हाँ, एक बीपी की दवाई लेता हूँ मैं, मतलब इज व्हाट दे विल से। एंड दैट्स हाउ you will know that people don't consider in India, people don't consider BP as a, or BP, which is basically hypertension, as a disease. A lot of people don't consider sugar as a disease. A lot of people don't consider COVID as a disease. They feel that COVID was like a flu that happened and went, but insurers are very serious about it, because if you've read reports, COVID has a lot of after effects, and insurers are shit scared about that, right? So respiratory disease is another area where a lot of people, like, I've had a case like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, where there was a guy I'm speaking to, and he's super well educated and no issues in terms of being aware about stuff. And I asked him, okay, tell me about your family's history and all that. So he said, हाँ, सब कुछ ठीक है, everything okay. Then he says, नहीं, मतलब my wife takes an inhaler sometimes. So, but only when it is SOS, not otherwise. So I said, okay, why does she take an inhaler? What is the inhaler for? Oh, she is pre-asthmatic, right? So these things are something that you should be careful about. Pre-asthmatic is nothing. There is nothing that insurers should not be knowing, and don't create, people create definitions of their own. There is nothing called pre-asthmatic. It is actually, maybe, I'm guessing it could be bronchitis. I'm not a doctor. But जितना मुझे पता है, I know it's about someone having early stage asthma, but it has to be informed. Uh, so these are the two things that I wanted to inform. And the third thing is, be careful about disclosing PED for your clients at the time of portability. Right. This is a very, very important point, and there are a lot of people who have had an issue on this, and there are people on the call right now who have actually, in fact, even shared this experience with me. Avinash, who's there on the call, Avinash Soni, he also shared with me a lot of these cases where there have been advisors who have sold policies to their customers in a hurry and not done an assessment of the pre-existing diseases that happened before taking the second policy. Like, if you've had a portability, you basically move from policy A to policy B. Now, you when you bought policy A, you are supposed to inform about all the diseases that you had before buying policy A. When you're porting to policy B, a lot of people assume that insurers will share their information and you don't need to inform. But that's not true. You will have a lot of issues, and insurer B is not going to look at के insurer A ने बताया कि नहीं बताया. He is going to just take the case based on whatever details he has. So ensure that your clients also inform about claims that happened in the first policy, which is policy A, and it is informed to the insurer of policy B very, very carefully. All the claims that happened, all the disease that got diagnosed during the earlier policy need to be informed to the next client, next insurer, sorry. So, and this is a very big problem, because uh, the new insurer is not going to take lightly anything that it didn't know about the claims that happened in policy A. Now there are forms. There is an exchange that IID has created where the insurer A is supposed to inform all this to insurer B, all the claims that have happened, and there is a system that IID has created to do that. But still, I would say there could be, these systems could fail, and if there is a claim in the new insurer, you will not be able to go to the previous insurer and fight with it that why didn't you inform the new insurer about something. So it's super clear that while you are helping a client on portability, or you are basically doing portability, ensure that you have informed about all the diseases before buying the early policy, and then while the claim happened, while if there were any claims or any diseases diagnosed or treated during the new policy, that the policy which is getting ported, all those need to be informed. Be very careful about this, and it's super important. The other point that I want to take, and I'm going to take another 5 minutes before we do get into the question and answer section, 5 to 7 minutes, is about mental illness. Now, this is an area which is super new. Like, I think most of the insurers and even people like me, I'm not so conversant about mental illnesses and how they are going to be treated in the future. So whatever I'm going to say is something that is out of my research. We are going to learn this as it happens in the future, and how insurers are going to react about, let's say, mental illness claims, or knowing about a mental illness after, for a, when there is a claim for a non-mental illness. Like for example, अगर किसी को mental illness था, he's not informed about some days, maybe it's not even an illness, it's just a very small disorder which is not like become into proper, can be defined as a disease. How that will be treated by a insurer when there is a claim, whether it's disclosed or not disclosed, specifically when it's not disclosed. Now, my study says that what is mental illness? First of all, mental illness is anything that basically affects mood, thinking, or behavior. So anything that affects these three things is basically will come under the mental disorder section. Now, what is that an insurer would want to know? In my study says, and what I would have suggested clients would be anything which is constant signs and symptoms, and anything which is significant, and therefore leading to the person not being able to function normally in, let's say, in socially, or let's say in any family activities, or let's say at work, or let's say even if he's a kid at school. If there are anything which is leading to that person not being able to function properly consistently for a long period of time, and it's a constant sign or symptom, then that has to be informed to an insurer, even if it is not clearly diagnosed. So mental illness is something that is super important. Diagnosed or treated, both need to be informed. Now, this is again a very worrisome thing, because right now insurers are asking very open-ended questions in their proposal form. Like for example, Star Health asks a question that the question is I'll just read it out. I have it here. Uh, is the person proposed for insurance in good health, free from physical and mental disease? This is the question. Now, this question is a very broad-ended question. It's important that if there is anything which is constant, which is something which is consistent and impacting the functioning of that person, it should be informed. There is another, like for example, HDFC Arco asks the question, it says, do you have any diseases like, and then there is a question which says nervous, psychiatric, mental, or sleep disorder. Now, disorder is a very broad word. What should be included again is a very big question mark. But these are the things that I feel they should be included carefully. So what we just spoke about in the last almost 15 minutes is about disclosures in proposal forms, and how you should disclose. You should disclose not only things which are happened in the last 4 years, but you should disclose everything that has happened in the last almost for the lifetime, which is significant and which is something that has been serious. And read questions very carefully. Common flu, cold, malaria, infection को छोड़ के almost everything is that you have to inform. Right now, we come to the other part of the discussion, which is, or the other part of the session, which is what is actually the waiting period and what is the definition of pre-existing disease. Right. The definition of pre-existing disease that IID has put is that any disease or health condition that has been diagnosed or treated in the last 4 years. That is all it asks for. And IID is saying this is the pre-existing disease definition, and this is where you put a waiting period. You don't put a waiting period on anything else apart from diseases that have got diagnosed during the last 4 years, which is before buying the policy, and any disease that has got treated in this last 4 years. So let me give you a quick example. Someone had, let's say, tuberculosis in childhood, right? And before he turned an adult, let's say at 18, this guy, let's say his name is Rajesh. Rajesh is completely treated and cured of tuberculosis, completely cured, right? Now Ramesh, let's say Rajesh, sorry, is 25 years old, and abhi he is buying a policy. Will he have to inform about tuberculosis in the proposal form? Answer is yes. Would TB be applied waiting period of whatever pre-existing disease waiting period the policy condition has, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? As per the IIDA regulation, no. You can't put a disease under the waiting period, which has not happened in the previous 4 years before buying the policy. So this is the difference that we wanted to talk to you about. Declaration is something that allows an insurer to evaluate the profile and the risk that is taking on book from a client. Right? That is a separate thing. What an insurer can put as waiting period is only as per the definition that is provided in the wordings that IID has given for definition of the disease, which is last 4 years may whatever has been diagnosed or treated, only those things can actually, by the spirit of what IID has mentioned in the definition, put as a waiting period. So in the case I mentioned, where Ramesh was had tuberculosis at a very early age, but then got treated and bought a policy, let's say 10 years after he got treated, and now he has no problems, he will have to declare the tuberculosis, but he cannot have a waiting period for that disease. This is where I this is the context that I want to set. I think we've almost reached, I've gone 1 minute past whatever time we wanted to spend. Would love to take questions now. You could, we have enough people to, let's say, spend good time. I think we can answer questions very elaborately, and anybody else who is an expert and who has experience, please raise your hands and also contribute. We are not, this is not a one-to-one session where I am supposed to answer questions. If someone else has experience, and if I have said something which contradictory to whatever has been your experience, please be absolutely open, raise your hands, and I will put you on the speaker board to be able to speak. Everybody learn, I'll also learn. So I'm waiting for anybody who want to ask a question or add into whatever I mentioned, and we could take this forward. Yep, Deepak. Yeah, Deepak, I'm just going to allow you to speak. You'll have to unmute and then ask your question. Thank you for joining, Deepak. Uh, it's great that you've joined.
Hi, Mahavir. Mahavir, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And this is something which came up yesterday in a discussion with the client. So what we have all now been talking of is individual policies in which we have to make declarations, and the insurer should know your terms and conditions, your previous illnesses, or any other disease which you may have. So yesterday I was speaking with a client who has had spinal surgery 18 years ago.
Right.
Okay, and this is to correct the posture, and this is a congenital effect. This is a problem which is there from birth.
Correct.
So it has been corrected. It has been done perfectly. It was done 18 years ago, and that person just now is perfectly normal. He is not on any medication.
Right. Right.
Okay, so he said, I joined a company and our company had a group insurance policy. They didn't ask me anything, and now I have a 10 lakh cover from my company within my group insurance, health insurance.
Right. Right. Right.
And this is a point when I suggested him that if you leave the company, which he said possibly he'll be doing in the next 1 year, you should have a policy for yourself on your own, so that if you leave your company and for some time you do not have a cover, you will be lost, right?
Correct.
Now, no company's application form, says that you have to mention each and every operation since birth. Some companies' forms say 3 years in the last 5 years. I have seen, I think somewhere there was a 10-year column.
Okay.
This is something which happened 18 years ago.
Right.
And he's having cover from his group insurer, from his employee.
Correct.
How does he do this going forward if he wants to buy an individual policy for his own?
Right. 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 So, yeah, Deepak. So I got your question. Your question is basically, this person had a specific disorder which he got cured a long time back, and like in the last 4 years, when he's now, let's say hypothetically he's buying the policy today. In last 4 years, he's not had any disease diagnosed or treated. What is that he'll have to mention? So most of my research, and obviously my research is based on how much time or effort I have put in it, and I would love to learn from people out here on the call. My research says that every insurer has an open-ended question in their proposal form, and which basically will take care of such kind of things. Like for example, when I'm right now, I just did a quick analysis yesterday evening there is a question which star asks, which says any other problem bracket please specify, right?
Hmm.
For example,
Yeah.
there is HDFC Ergo who says has had an ailment or disability or deformity, including due to an accident or congenital disease. This is a question.
Yeah.
This is an open-ended
Yes.
question. So the
Yeah.
person will have to, Deepak will have to inform the insurer in at this phase that I've had a spinal correction in the year, let's say whatever, and and also maybe attach the details of the the surgery and the discharge report and everything so that the insurer gets clear understanding of that this thing has completely got cured and there is nothing that the person is getting treated for or needs to get treated for in the future.
Yeah.
So is
Okay.
that, does that
So
answer your question? Yeah.
yes, partly. And there is another question to this question, and let me qualify myself. I have been in, health insurance from 1984. I've been selling policies from the past 35 years. So have
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a quite, varied experience with different insurers
Of course.
regarding all this. But then this discussion is going on, and you have done deeper research. My thing is basically limited to two companies. As an individual, I can work with one general insurer and one private health insurer. So
Right, right, right.
my only thing was that, many cases like these where, the operations were done 10, 15, 18 years ago, most of the clients do not have any records, of the discharge card or of the treatment, or it was done in
Yeah,
one city and, they had moved on and changed a few cities and they are at a new city. This is just basically taking a client's word that I have done this.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Many
yeah,
insurers
yeah,
hesitate to take these sort of proposals, and in the terms and conditions, I have clearly
yeah.
read somewhere that, congenital diseases are not covered. Here, there was a congenital problem which was corrected and the person is all right.
Hmm, 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 hmm. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
your views.
Deepak.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Deepak, my view, if I were you, and it's great to know that you've had almost like double the experience that I have. So would love to learn a lot from you. The point here is that uh, the disclosure that an insurer wants will have to be given. There is no doubt that if I were you or if I was even the client, I would ask,
Yeah.
if I was the client, I would disclose everything. And if I don't have papers, then
Yeah.
it is anyways not a requirement that I am supposed to keep my papers. I don't have my papers. Now, if there is
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
insurer who's not taking the word of the client, then and the client could actually give a proper explanation that I've lost my papers, I don't have the papers, this is what I know. The
Yeah.
insurer then has the right to either accept the case, reject the case, or get a medical test done. If the insurer is rejecting the case, it's better. Like if I were you, I would not go with that insurer. It's good not to go with an insurer which rejects the case because of a disclosure that you're doing right now. Then have a claim
Yeah.
issue at the time of claims.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there are sane insurers, there are people who would take a good judgment of this and approve such cases. But I know what you're talking about. It's a very, very weird scenario, and
Yeah.
insurers have kept it open-ended by design so that they can basically it works for them, right? It's kind of one-sided the way disclosures are taken. That मुझे सब
Yeah.
कुछ बताओ अभी तुम भूल गए तो तुम्हारा प्रॉब्लम है you tell me everything.
Yeah.
So it is actually lopsided for, and it's on to the benefit of the insurer. But the only thing that I would do as a client, if I was the client, or I would do as an advisor, is that I would sit down and ensure that the client informs everything. If it requires a separate document to be made, absolutely fine, but make it and give it so that there is no problem, because this is a lifetime policy, right? And you know this better
Yes.
than me. It's a lifetime
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
क्यों मगजमारी चाहिए later on when there is a claim? Inform everything.
Yeah.
Just inform everything. Yeah.
There is one more thing which I want to share, and this has been happening
Sure.
recently in the last few years. I've observed this. Most of these new insurers, health insurers, or somebody who's coming into health insurance new for the first time, in a bid to attract clients, they are
Huh.
doing away with the medical test for age up to 55 or 59. And invariably, some agents or advisors, or they will have these rewards and recognitions. You have to log in 5 proposals, 8 proposals, 20 proposals. They will just go and canvas business from people who are like 50, 55 and tell them, यहाँ तो
Correct.
मेडिकल है ही नहीं, फॉर्म भर दो, पॉलिसी इशू हो जाएगा, फिर देखा जाएगा. आई थिंक दिस इज अ
Correct.
मिस्टेक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर मेकिंग. I
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
all my clients that even if you are 45 and this particular plan does not require a medical, you insist, correspond with the company, tell them that I want to undergo a medical. If you are not
Correct.
asking for a medical, I will undergo at it at my cost, and I will
Correct.
attach the report. This should be part of the application form in my record, so that when I took the policy, there is proof that I was perfectly all right. There was no issue with me, so that tomorrow I do not give a chance to the company to, even think about rejecting my claim.
Absolutely, absolutely. Both your points are bang
Yeah.
on. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
uh, and it obviously comes from the kind of experience you have that there is no point in hurrying to buy a policy. There are cases
Yes.
where financial advisors, people who are trying to achieve targets with people's health insurance are not financial
Yeah.
advisors. In my view, they are financial salesmen. I am very, very open about that. I
Yeah.
think when you are selling a health insurance, you are actually taking a very big responsibility. Or also, your reputation is at stake as an advisor, and you should sell right, and you should ensure that the person buys right. Is what I also
Yeah.
feel. आज
Yeah.
तुमने बेच दिया पॉलिसी, कमीशन मिल गया 4 महीने के बाद और 1 साल के बाद या 5 साल के बाद, if there is a client who feels cheated, you will
Yeah.
lose reputation in your geography. You will lose reputation with
Yeah.
in the social society that you're living. Why anybody would do that? So it
Yeah.
does not even forget ethics. I'm saying it does not even commercially make sense, meaning I'm
Yes.
purposely saying this. Commercially also, it
Yeah.
does not make sense for a financial advisor to do this. So I completely agree with you on this. The second part which you mentioned, which is medical test, I think that's
Yeah.
also a very, very interesting thing, Deepak. There are two aspects to this. One is, I agree with you that if an insurer does not ask for a medical test, you still, if you have above 40, if you have had any kind of symptoms, it's better to go for a medical test for everything and attach the report, even if the insurer is not asking for it. But
Yeah.
despite that, the point is that disclosures will have to be even more comprehensive. Even if you're attaching a report, the reason is that whatever test you do, it's not going to be comprehensive enough to cover symptoms, and
Yes.
it's not a head to toe medical test ever, right? You do medical test of
Exactly.
vitals, or you do medical test of certain parts which could be
Yeah.
serious, but there could be something
Yeah.
else. Like I have had a claim of a person about 10 years ago who had a stomach ache which he did not inform the insurer, which
Oh.
after buying the policy about 2 years later came out to be cancer, right?
Oh.
And yeah, and the client did mention the stomach ache at the time of medical examination to the
Oh.
person who did the medical examination, but he did not mention it
Yeah.
in the proposal form. Now the guy who did the
Oh.
medical examination, he didn't write it. So, meaning he didn't write it in the paper, the medical examination report that they
Yeah.
prepare. And that led to a big dispute, and we had to like fight tooth and nail with that insurer. So, even that
Oh.
medical examination report, whoever is filling
Yeah.
that medical examination report, I think we need to be careful that everything that you have said is also
Yeah.
mentioned by that guy. So, it's like too much of diligence that a client has to do. But unfortunately, that's the only way to get a lifetime of hospitalization cover for yourself. So
Yeah.
I totally get where you're coming from, and I know
Yeah.
you've seen claims, and hence we know that this can become a big issue.
Yeah. Also, I
Yeah,
do not want to, monopolize this discussion, but just one observation for all the people who are here. So,
sure.
a lot of, change is happening in the health insurance space. Companies being taking over. There is merging happening. One person selling out and new companies coming in. So Apollo was sold to HDFC. Max moved out Max Bupa, and it is now Navi. I have seen that, when these takeovers happen or these mergers or these things happen, almost the whole character of the company changes. The
Yeah,
underwriting procedures change, the way the claims are, seen is changed. Actually, people having older policies and the newer policies are also looked at differently. So this is also
yeah,
something which I have observed. So it's not that today if I buy a policy, and I'm just taking a name, if it was Apollo, I had
yeah,
a comfort with the management or the way the servicing was done or the way the cashless claim was settled. Suddenly it's taken over by another company. Premiums go up 100% within 2 years. And now I had planned something, and now something totally different is happening.
yeah.
So this is also an experience which happens with a lot of health insurance policies, especially now with all these mergers and acquisitions which is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's really great that you raised this point, and I'm talking to financial advisors almost on a day-to-day basis, and this is a concern. And there, like the example that you gave, this is a concern for so many financial advisors who are seeing the change in the entire approach of a company after it got merged with another company, and the whole system has changed. The way things are looked at has changed, and the client is actually the only one who will suffer in this. So that's really unfortunate, and it is about actually insurers have the right to change premiums whenever they want to. They can actually change the terms and conditions. They can even withdraw a product. They can even migrate you to a new product. So it is to a certain extent very tricky. Health insurance is very tricky, and that's why we've also done a separate discussion. Obviously, I don't want to go deep into it, but of having a separate healthcare fund to ensure that you have a backup for your health insurance also.
That I tell every
So
client of mine. If you have a health
exactly,
insurance policy, that should never be your only go-to for your health problems. Always have a
exactly,
separate health emergency fund. Always, all my clients. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I'm going to take the
Thank you,
next
thank you,
question now. Thank you, Deepak. It was
thank
a
you for the
wonderful
opportunity,
talking to you.
Mahavir. Yeah, thank you.
Shrikant, I'll take. I'm going to allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you for joining, Shrikant. Shrikant, are you there? Uh, yes, Shrikant, you can now speak. You just need to press the button on the center which says unmute. If you press on that button, it will allow you to unmute and then you can speak. Okay, I think maybe Shrikant has some issues with his Telegram. Should I? I think Vikram, you had also raised your hand as seen. Would you want to speak? I'm just going to allow you to speak and invite you to come on board and speak. If
Good morning, Mahavir. Good morning, everybody.
yeah, good morning, Vikram. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Hope everybody is fine during this pandemic and
Yeah,
healthy. Yeah.
yeah.
I was just pointing out to Deepak what Deepak raised. It was a very valid thing which he raised. What we do generally is that we take if we don't have a discharge summary or the past documents for the hospitalization in the past, what we do is we
Okay,
ask the insured to write a letter briefing
correct.
all the details they remember, and we
Yes,
submit it to the insurance company. So now it is their choice whether to accept or not. But generally they accept it because it is not possible that, like Deepak said, 10, 15 years ago, if somebody had an operation, they might not have the discharge summary or the documents. So
absolutely.
that is accepted, and that is the best way one we can save our clients from the insurance jargon of not giving the claim or not settling it or rejecting it for any other reason. So that
Absolutely,
was just I
absolutely.
wanted to add this point.
Yeah. And that's
Thank you,
exactly
Mahavir.
what I used to do. Yeah, Shrikant. So that's
Yeah,
exactly that I used to also do. It's very important that you simply write a mail, if even if you don't want to put it on a piece of paper, and send it to. Even you can send it to, meaning you can ask the client to send it to you, and you can also forward it to the insurer, to the specific person who's going to look after this case. That's also good, but direct email is always good so that it's on record. I've had both these cases where we've taken prints, attached it to the proposal form, and given it to insurer so that any such kind of case is taken care of. Anything that you've not been able to put. Anybody else who wants to? Yeah, there is anything else that
yeah,
you want to
Mahavir.
talk about? Yes, Shrikant.
Hello.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hi. Morning, Mahavir.
Hi.
Good to join this platform. Last week I missed this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shrikant, for joining.
So yeah, just to add what Deepak ji was discussing about that specific case where he had the spinal cord surgery. I just wanted to add. See, it's more of at some point of time it is our judgment also, because in this case. Spinal cord surgery is a critical organ. Spinal cord is a critical organ, so we definitely have to have that judgment. We need to
Right.
definitely disclose that thing. Other point, he also said this has been a congenital issue. Congenital issues, as we all know, internal congenital issues are actually not covered. Not
Mm-hmm.
covered. So in that sense, also it makes mandatory on our part to make a disclosure. But then, to my understanding, because this has been about 18-20 years back and he's completely cured, how we can go about this thing is basically, yeah, you definitely have to make a disclosure. If we don't have any discharge summary or any medical records to that effect, my experience is that most insurance companies might ask you for a treating doctor certificate. Treating
Okay.
doctor certificate, whether you
Yeah,
have the
yeah,
same,
yeah.
if you're in touch with your regular doctor, or you can actually visit a physician who or he knows about your medical condition, and he should be able to give you a fair assessment of your health, and that can be attached. And I am damn sure that policy will be issued
Right.
with companies which have got decent underwriting guidelines. So that's about it. And that's a specific case. And another thing I wanted to add is about this pre-existing conditions. What I generally like in your case when you said portability, or for that matter, many of our clients we would have done a policy 4 years back, 5 years back, 10 years back. Okay, most of the people would have been healthy when they joined us, but over a period of time they would have certainly developed some comorbidity, whether it is BP or diabetes or any other medical condition. So what I generally prefer are a kind of to send a kind of mail or send kind of some message that if you have certain comorbidity that has been developed over a period of time, please declare, whether it, even if it is mid-term of your policy. So some companies like SDF, I think it is that window is available with every insurance company, that you can declare your comorbidity that you have developed this thing, and that can be endorsed in your policy. That will actually kind of clear many issues when you are actually suddenly hospitalized. Most insurance companies will have a query key: when did you develop this situation? When did you develop this problem? If somebody says that I have diabetes, if he has taken a policy 10 years back, but he would have developed diabetes, say, in the last 4 years. You don't know as an advisor, and insurance company also doesn't have any idea, when did you get a diabetes. So they will raise a query: when did you have had this diabetes? So then they will ask for this first consultation papers. So
Mm-hmm.
rather than wait for that day, if you can remind us, sensitize our customers about this process, about kind of having a record of our first consultation papers, that will clear a lot of issues you have,
Okay.
whether you submit it to the insurance company then and there, or you actually have a record of that thing, so that when there is an issue, you have these first consultation reports. Insurance companies will definitely ask for these first consultation reports whenever there is any pre-existing condition which is not mentioned in your policy.
When they suspect that it was a pre-existing disease condition, is what you're saying.
Yes. There are
So,
always is this suspicion,
yes.
whether he would have had this thing 2 years later, whether he had this condition before this policy. So
Correct.
I've seen this situation arising. So I would suggest my fraternity here that, okay, maybe we can sensitize our customers. Okay, you have your first consultation records with you.
Right. So, are you, when you said about endorsement, that's an interesting point, and I wanted to understand that better. You talked about taking an endorsement and going to an insurer and getting an endorsement done. Are you talking about the diseases that client forgot to mention when they bought the policy, or are you talking about diseases that happened after he bought the policy?
After he bought the policy.
Okay.
After
Once
he
the
bought the
disease,
policy, at least there can be a record in the insurance company's against our profile, that, okay, suppose I would have taken a policy, say, 1st January 2020, but I developed
Mhm.
a diabetic condition around, say, April 21. So my
Okay.
doctor has see, first consultation reports are the papers when I would have visited a doctor with these symptoms. Okay, I would have visited a physician, and he would have, based on the diagnosis, he would have given me certain prescriptions, certain tests, and that would form the first consultation report. So I will generally submit these first consultation reports to make a record that I have been diagnosed with diabetes from so and so date, so
Okay,
that
but
there is
where
no
where
such.
does it? Sorry, I'm cutting you. But where
Yeah,
does the insurer actually record this?
at least we would, no, they would definitely record. I have done that thing.
No, no. Is it
Uh,
recorded as a document and given it to you, or is it recorded with them saying that this is noted?
yes, it will be recorded with them. At least if you are
Okay.
if it is going through you, you have some material evidence in terms of a mail
Yeah.
which has come from the customer, and you would have forwarded it to the company official.
But
Okay,
they are not
sometimes it.
including it as a, sorry, they are not including it as a pre-existing disease in the policy, right? That's very clear.
No, there is no, absolutely not. Why would they
Yes.
record it as a pre-existing disease?
Right. There is a case that happened on the forum, and I don't know whether it was someone whom I don't know whether it was Avinash, you or someone else. Avinash was also there on the call. But there was a case where what happened is that a customer actually declared about a disease that happened after he bought the policy, and
Mhm,
insurer very conveniently went and added it as a pre-existing disease in the policy.
mhm,
That
mhm,
has
mhm.
happened, and this is a very, very stupid case, and meaning, but it has happened in true sense that
Uh,
insurer took those documents, added it as a pre-existing disease, and put it in the policy saying that acha ye customer, whereas the disease actually happened after you bought the policy. So I was just trying to check whether you're talking about that. I have
no,
never
no, no.
done
It
that. So
is no,
personally, yeah, huh,
no. I think there are two areas here. Again, as per the recent IRDA guideline, I think anything which is diagnosed within 90 days of policy issuance, that will still be considered as a pre-existing condition. Okay, so we'll have to
sorry,
evaluate whether
48 hours,
uh,
48
no,
months before
90
buying the
days.
policy.
No, no, no. 48 months before and also 90 days after policy issuance. If something is
Uh,
diagnosed 90 days after your policy issuance, that can still be considered as a pre-existing condition.
I don't. I somehow don't. I have a different opinion there. I don't think that is true. I will also come back to you after reading the. I would definitely not want to comment without rereading whatever you just mentioned.
Hmm.
But from what I remember, and this is something that my knowledge says that after till the policy is issued, and even before when you submit the proposal form, and if the policy is not issued, and if there is a disease that happened even between that, you're supposed to inform the insurer. But after the policy is issued, anything that happens after that will never be considered as a pre-existing disease. This is my knowledge, but I will definitely
No, no,
come
no.
back to
My
you on this.
memory strikes like this, Mahavir. I'm sure about something like this coming up in last year around
So
September,
I have
October.
the regulations open with me right now, and
Yeah.
I think you're talking about something which is hypertension. The waiting there is something that insurers were allowed to do now, which is around hypertension and diabetes, which is around 90 days. But
Huh.
pre-existing disease definition is very clear. It doesn't have anything which talks about 90 days. Uh, what we would do is that I will offline get in touch with you to understand this better.
Sure,
I'll
sure.
take the next question. So Rohit, I'm just allowing you to
Maybe
speak.
Mahavir, just a suggestion. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm also going by what I read about my interpretation is that, but for the broader benefit, you can actually make a post on our this thing, Telegram, this thing about
I'll
more
do that.
clarity on this thing. Yeah,
For sure do that. I'll for sure do that.
yeah, yeah.
So
Thank you,
yeah,
Mahavir.
yeah. Thank you, Satish. I've uh, Rohit, I've allowed you to speak. You can now speak.
Uh, Thank you, sir.
It,
So one,
thank you, Rohit, for joining.
I mean, actually, I should really appreciate that you are able to create a platform where all of us could get connected. A wonderful platform,
Right.
sir. Uh,
Thank you.
there's this thing on pre-existing disease. What I have seen at times, at least once or twice in my instance, the pre-existing disease or a past condition, which probably has now been cured, also is not
Mhm.
mentioned in the final policy that has been shared. So for example, a client has had a surgery for gallbladder, and he declared that, but that was never mentioned. He had a history of thyroid, and the insurer said that no, there is some default in a problem with our system. I'm unable to choose thyroid as a condition.
Okay.
So this has happened once. Uh, Also, at times, because you are referring to a couple of points on HDFC, so what happened? This is for my own personal policy. Uh, while I was doing this policy, a super top up, the drop down did not have a column for sinusitis,
Hmm.
and therefore I wrote a mail to them, and no, I said that this is the condition, and so on and so forth. And then they asked me for the X-ray, etc., which I of course submitted to them. But apparently, when the policy came in, it was never mentioned there. And I wrote them back, no, why isn't it mentioned here? And they said, no, it is not required, and we've seen your X-ray and everything. So, I mean, such instances do also occur.
Okay.
Also, I think someone was just, or was it you? Someone was mentioning about this 90-day thing. There is still no clarity about, at least to me, on the pre-existing disease. So, if someone has got a disease in, say, first 60 days or 90 days of taking the policy, will it be considered as a pre-existing by the insurer or no?
Okay. This is the question you are asking a question, right?
Sorry.
This is a question you are asking, right? Meaning.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So Rohit, in my view, and I have obviously stand to be corrected if there is something that I've missed, but the amount of reading I have done, I think pre-existing disease definition is now super clear, and it talks about only those diseases, and this is specifically for waiting period I'm talking about, only those diseases which are diagnosed or treated in the last 48 months. In fact, there was a thing which was mentioned earlier in one of the earlier wordings that insurer had, which also included symptoms in the last 48 months. Even that
Correct.
has now been removed, which is brilliant. I think it removes so many disputes that could have happened. So now it says a waiting period can only be put on diseases which are diagnosed or treated in the last 48 months. So anything that happens after those 48 months or before those 48 months cannot be put as a waiting period. Disclosures, like we have already discussed, is a completely different thing. But whether it will be a waiting period, I am very clear that, and this is something that is out of my knowledge, that anything that happens after you bought the policy is not going to be considered as pre-existing disease, even if it is one day after it happens. Uh, Only thing that could happen is it could become a issue. It could become something that an insurer would want to very deeply investigate to understand whether there is any kind of misrepresentation or fraud. But if it is a genuine case, it will not lead to any kind of disputes. And I'm like kind of very clear about this, that you will not face any issues. uh,
Can I
we
come in
will
over
and
here, Mahavir?
yeah, please, Deepak.
So the policy is a contract. Once a contract has been
Exactly.
issued by the company, if something happens to you even one day later, it can't be taken as a pre-existing disease. It cannot.
Exactly.
A policy is issued on something like a declaration which you have either given on paper or online. The insurers have accepted those terms and condition, has either issued to you that policy on normal level or on loading basis. It's a contract. It's a final decision. It's a document which is stamped. After 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 8 days, 20 days, even 90 days, if blood pressure is diagnosed or even cancer is diagnosed, unless
Exactly.
that policy has specific waiting periods, which says after taking this policy in the first 2 years, A, B, C, D is not payable. That point is taken. Otherwise, it cannot be made into a pre-existing disease.
Absolutely. In fact, if you even add to this the 30-day waiting period, right? There is something which is the 30-day waiting period clause, which says that in the first 30 days, if you are treated or diagnosed for any disease, then that, meaning, which is a separate discussion, we are not like bringing it here. I will do a separate session for that. But I'm just trying to add here is that there is a first day 30-day waiting period for any kind of hospitalization that happens for an illness, right, which is there in every health insurance policy. This also does not include diseases that have got diagnosed during the first 30 days. It talks about earlier there were different policies which had different conditions. Some of them said diagnosed, symptoms, treated, everything. Now it's with the new standard definition, it's made very clear that first 30 days of hospitalization for a disease is not covered. Even if a cancer is detected 5 days and then the treatment happens after the 30-day waiting period, that also is something that is covered. So, and I think that's also a very good perspective, Deepak, that you brought in, that it's a contract. When it is a contract, then it has been signed and sealed and everything has been understood, and you have given all the details before the contract for the insurer to price and give you terms which have now been signed by the insurer. The story is over. The insurer cannot say now, "Arey, abhi naya kuch aa gaya." They cannot do that. And as per regulation also, like someone else pointed out, it cannot be done that after you bought the policy, there is something that can be added. Only thing I again repeat for just the sake of clarity is insurers will make it little trickier and want to do a thorough investigation, because obviously there are frauds that happen where customers don't mention about all their diseases. So they would want to understand much deeper whether there was actually, this was something which was a misrepresentation. So that will definitely happen. Yeah, Avinash wants to speak. Yeah, I'll just add Avinash. Avinash, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, hi everyone. It was a very good discussion today with good insights and discussions. So one thing I just wanted to point out about the 30-day waiting period which you just mentioned. Recently, I don't remember. I can get back to you, but in one of the policy wordings, uh, maybe it was a old policy wordings. I don't remember, but I have seen that it was clearly mentioned any diseases or illnesses diagnosed or treated within the first 30 days waiting period will not be covered. So I'm not sure if the IRDA standard guidelines which were brought in last year applies for this 30 days waiting period as well. Anyway, I'll check that. I'll try to find that policy wordings and get back. So if someone else is also aware about it, maybe they can speak up.
But the insurer actually is after October 20, and I'm sure everybody on this call knows, is that after October 20, they're mandatorily required to update their policy wording. So I'm assuming there is some manual error that has happened. I have the 30-day waiting period wordings very clearly written on the guidelines that IRDA has done here, which clearly mentions expenses related to the treatment of any illness within 30 days from the first policy commencement date shall be excluded, except claims arising due to an accident, provided the same are covered. This exclusion shall not, however, apply if the insured person has continuous coverage for more than 12 months. So this is the wording. Any policy wording which is not updated or attached because of whatever manual error is anyways going to not stand true if there is a proper dispute that is raised with IRDA or with whoever. And I think it is I think it's a human error. It somehow, I think. But yeah, if you could share that, we could also put this as a post on the channel that this is also happening.
I think Mahavir has made it very, very clear. What he's saying is perfectly all right. Many a times what happens is we tend to interpret the wordings in our own sense of what we understand of it or not what it actually legally or simply means. And, there is a lot of technical jargon which is used in the terms and conditions of the policy. I was sitting down with a doctor who wanted to take a Mediclaim policy for the first time. After she went through the terms and conditions, she said, why should I buy the policy? It is paying me for 20 items, but it is telling me 200 things they will not do. This is not possible. Ye nahi milega, wo nahi milega. So many a times, when we read these 30-day conditions and waiting periods and 90 days and whatnot, we internally assume, this is what is actually true, but it may actually mean totally something else. So being part of a forum like this, where people like Mahavir are there, people who've done research, people who are actually in the field, who are actually doing that job, helps make it, clearer for everyone. So great job, Mahavir.
Hey, thanks, Deepak. Thanks for joining. And I think you've brought in a lot of good insights from your deep experience and the rich experience that you've had. Thank you for coming in. Yeah. Anybody else who has a question? We've already crossed our scheduled time, but we could take one question. I've really enjoyed this, so I don't mind continuing it for another 5-10 minutes if required. Is anybody has a question or even wants to add to anything that we discussed? Okay, fine. I'm assuming that there is nothing that is to be discussed. So my only request to all of you is that please help us spread the word. I think the kind of discussion we had today, please, it's been wonderful. I think the way we envisioned it is that we never envisioned this to be a one-sided conversation, because it's not that we are people who know everything. It's just that we wanted to create a platform where people who really are interested in the customer side of the story and wants the customer to win in the long run come together so that we can do a good job at it. So thank you everyone who joined. Please do help us share this community with others. Whoever you feel could, join in people who could benefit from this, please help us share. We just right now a very small number, 400 people. It would be very wonderful if people on the call, if you have any part, if you're involved in any groups, if you could share this, it would really help us to expand this community, get more people, and spread the word, help everybody else in the fraternity who can also benefit from what we're trying to do. Also, any feedback that anybody of you have, I would be. You can ping me on the same. My name is available on the in the channel. You could write to me there, or I'm also available on mahavir@beshak.org. You could also share your feedback in the comment section in any of the posts that you see on the channel. Thank you so much for all of you joining in. I will also share the recording of this for everybody's benefit soon. Till then, have a great weekend. Goodbye.